Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gordon Frayne. We are back with another video. Today, we're talking about Bitcast and the Bittensor TAO ecosystem. I'm joined by Tom, who is one of the founders of Bitcast. So, Tom, very welcome to the channel and thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, thank you very much, Gordon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so Tom, we've been connected for a couple of weeks now, and I've been learning and immersing myself more around what Bitcast is doing. But before we dive into all that, I'd love to just hear or for you to give a little bit of background about yourself on a personal level. I know yourself and your brother Will have started Bitcast. So maybe you can give a little bit of background about yourself and then talk about a little bit of that personal motivation around why you decided to start Bitcast.
Yeah, okay. Bitcast is a marketing platform, and my background is actually last 15 years I've been working in TradFi, where I've been delivering software solutions, some using utilizing AI, sorry. And but in the last 5 years or so, I started an e-commerce brand where I was exposed to ads, pay-per-click, influencers, PR releases. So I got a good flavor of marketing from actually buying ad space. Um, but as well, whilst I was doing that, I started an Instagram account as well, which is a hyper-local account based in Manchester in the UK. And that did really well. It got quite successful. And through doing that, I also got a flavor of what it is like to be a content creator and how that works. Now, an amazing industry to be in, but from having that view on on both sides of the coin, it gave me a really good flavor of the pitfalls of the industry and a really good understanding of how it all works and essentially how it could be improved.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was sort of one of the elements that got us into looking at a marketing platform. And yeah, and then my co-founder is my brother Will. He has been again, he's in TradFi. He's more development focused, technical focused. He's been working within the Bittensor ecosystem, mining on various subnets for the last year. So yeah, it's a good combination. So I've got sort of client skills and project leading skills, and he's more developer focused.
Amazing. A good combination. So I didn't realize you had a background in e-commerce as well. I actually run an e-commerce agency, also working with a lot of brands with Shopify. So that's a conversation for another day, I think, but it's cool that you've got that background as well.
Cool.
Um, so for people who don't know already, I guess, could you give a bit of an overview about what Bittensor TAO is and how decentralized AI is kind of, in its early days in a way, but also kind of trying to put up um, this competition against centralized AI models like ChatGPT, et cetera. I think that would be awesome just to give a little bit of context around that.
Yeah, absolutely. BitTensor is quite a complicated concept in itself, but to break it down, the tokenomics are the same as Bitcoins. So there's 21 million max supply. It has halving cycles. But the difference between the two is that Bitcoin is a proof of work, so it's a lot of compute power working out hash and um, basically not providing much value with that compute power. Um, However, BitTensor it uses the compute power for completely different reasons. So essentially, it's a proof of useful work rather than proof of work. And essentially, it within BitTensor, you've got loads of little tiny companies, and they're called subnets. And each one serves its own little AI purpose or functional purpose in the real world. And people mine on those little companies and provide the solutions. So as they provide great solutions, they get rewarded in crypto. Um, so it's essentially it's similar to Bitcoin in the concept of how it's designed, but the compute power is actually providing AI solutions.
Mhm.
Um, and just going back to sort of your point about how decentralized AI is important, I suppose it's come out of these huge brands like OpenAI, Meta, Facebook. They're very very centralized, and they're gonna AI is gonna swallow the world, right? Like as a technology, it's going to be so powerful, but it's going to be controlled, or if it wasn't for decentralized AI, it would be controlled by these huge corporations. So BitTensor is a way of enabling people to control or to own a bit of this technology, and it's extremely exciting. And it's not like a secret. Like these, you've got massive investors getting involved, and the tech is just. I mean, they call it TAO pilled, and once you understand what it's doing, like once you're
Mhm.
in, you're just hooked, and you just stay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've heard some people describe the TAO network itself as almost like a Hunger Games where you've got all the subnets competing against each other because, like you said, they're trying to provide the most valuable or useful information with that proof of useful work that you mentioned. But then also within each of those subnets, you've also got almost like a mini Hunger Games happening because you've got all the miners competing against each other within each subnet to again provide the most valuable information for the validators to validate. So, how is Bitcast, I guess, competing, and what are you guys doing to try and outcompete some of the other subnets within the larger TAO ecosystem?
Yeah, good question. So Bitcast, our miners are content creators.
Mhm.
So we looked at BitTensor as a whole, and we were looking for problems that we could provide a solution for. And going back to what I said before, the whole concept is really complicated, and we're like, well, surely we should be incentivizing the people who are the best at telling stories, who can explain how BitTensor works and bring it to life and bring more people into the ecosystem.
Mhm.
So we dug down and we're like, well, how can we do this? And starting up a subnet, essentially, how it works is that we would post or a brand or whoever wants to pay for it can post a content brief, and then the content creators see the brief, and if they think it suits their audience, they can pick it up, they can bring it to life in their own creative way. And the network evaluates each creator's video, looks at all the metrics behind it to see what the engagement on the video, and based on that, everybody is competing against each other for a pot of rewards at the top.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's that's essentially how it all works and how it holds together. But going to the higher level of the Hunger Games across all the subnets,
Mhm.
it's a like you said, it's very, very competitive space. Um, and there is some massive players and obviously there's some smaller players, but our subnet we've seen it already, it's been very, very well received by the BitTensor ecosystem as a whole. A lot of subnets are getting in contact with us asking to work with us because our goal is to raise the awareness of BitTensor initially,
Mhm.
and everyone involved in the TAO ecosystem is like, well, let's get behind this project and let's support this project to make it shine and deliver on bringing the TAO ecosystem to, basically making it a household name.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we are in competition with them, but we've got we're going to build a platform that's got real world use. It's got a massive desire out there for people to use it, and yeah, we're very confident that we're going to be able to compete.
Mhm. Amazing, amazing. We'll dive into maybe the content briefs in a few minutes, but you mentioned that the content creators or the YouTubers are the people who are essentially the miners on the the Bitcast subnet. So I guess could you dive into a little bit more about the mechanics of how do they how do the validators evaluate, content from those miners in order to essentially assess how they are providing information or if that information in the video is valuable. And maybe just so, again, people have context, what Bitcast does is on a weekly basis at the moment, you guys publish a content brief that creators then have to essentially record a video or content around, and then that goes to the validators who will begin to assess that. So, can you speak to that process and how the validators actually evaluate the content to make sure it's legitimate or useful, as you said earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of setting up a miner, a content creator would connect their YouTube API account to the miner. Now, by doing that, we gather a lot of data around the engagement and how the video is, I guess, being interacted with across YouTube. We also gather the transcript and the descriptions from each video. So there's a two-step process here. So initially, we have using LLMs, we will evaluate the transcript of the video to make sure that it fits the brief. So if the video is talking about the content and it covers the topics that it was supposed to, it will pass that element of the validation. Then the next step is to evaluate the engagement. So, like I said before, we've got a lot of data coming off the back of each video, and we're developing models at the moment to, I suppose, separate sort of real engagement versus botted and bought engagement. Um, and this whole process needs to be automated so that we can scale the business. So we're currently working on fine tuning that, but we've got a solution at the moment that's working really well. And yeah, so once it's past those two, a miner would be assigned a score, and then that score is compared against all the other content creators competing on that content brief, and then the emissions are divided between everybody.
Hmm. Okay, amazing. So, about the emissions, how does that work with regards to the emissions coming from the TAO network to the Bitcast subnet? And then obviously they're subdivided further amongst the miners or content creators based on how useful that information is. Can you just explain how that flow works, just very simply?
Yeah, of course. So um, each subnet, so there's a pot of tau at the top on top of Bittensor, and that is divided up between all the subnets on the network. Now, that division is weighted, so it's dependent on how valuable the market sees your subnet. So the most valuable subnet gets the highest proportion of that tau, and obviously down to the bottom where you get the least. So that's how the tau is divided between each subnet. And then within the subnet itself, there is subnet alpha tokens. And you've got your proportion of tau that translates to a certain amount of alpha tokens. And it's these alpha tokens that every day get released. And it's what the miners are receiving in rewards for their contribution.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think the concept of um, DTAO and alpha tokens could take up a whole conversation in and of itself, but maybe we can do a follow-up series on that. Um, you mentioned a few minutes ago that the subnet Bitcast has been pretty well received, and for me, that makes a lot of sense because when I think about it purely from an incentive alignment perspective, TAO, as a network, obviously wants to continue growing and try to get more users and try to build up um, the amount of people interacting with the protocol. And obviously, as a marketing style subnet, it's in TAO's best interest, I guess, to incentivize a subnet like yours because it ultimately gathers and garners more attention for your subnet, but the TAO network as a whole. So for me, it makes a lot of sense. Is that something that you guys, I'm sure, intentionally thought about, but has there been any other kind of ancillary benefits of that approach that have come up since you launched as well?
Obviously, I mean, one of the things that we realized, we were watching a podcast not too long ago, and someone said something that really hit a bell with us. They mentioned that BitTensor is the only major L1 without a marketing budget.
Hmm.
And we're like, well, the BitTensor way of marketing should be a subnet.
Hmm.
So yeah, when we got involved, we we were hoping and we were we did speak to people within the community, and we were fairly confident it would be well received. Um, I suppose has anything spun on from it? I suppose what we've been very happy with is the number of subnets that have already reached out to us, asking to use the service,
Hmm.
which after only launching 2 weeks ago is a great, I think it's a great example of market fit, that we are building a solution that is valuable and that people are really wanting to use.
Hmm.
So that's great to see. And also, I mean, the rate in which creators are queuing up to get involved, is becoming a bit of a problem, a bit of a bottleneck for us because bringing on non-technical creators into a technical space has its complexities.
Hmm.
But we are working through these. But yeah, it's been a really good start to life at Bitcast.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good problems to be having, I think, being inundated with interest from both creators and brands, which is essentially what you want ultimately. So just doubling down on that, on the brand side of things. For me, it obviously makes a lot of sense that you would be promoting some of the other subnets, and obviously some of the briefs that you've already released are for describing certain elements of BitTensor, whether it's DTAO or whether it's your own subnet Bitcast. How does that expand into maybe other networks? Like, is that the plan? Is that the intention where you could have other protocols approaching Bitcast for tapping into creators? Or is it mainly the idea to stick within the TAO ecosystem? And how do you see that for the future?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what we're building can be scaled to anything. So it can be applied to anything. So we're using Bittensor as our launchpad. It's where people understand how subnets work, and it's where people can get involved in working with Bitcast. So that's our launchpad, and it's the ecosystem that we are very, very passionate about ourselves as the founders.
Mhm.
Um, but as as our solution and platform becomes more stable, we will be generating much more reach because we're bringing in more creators. We'll have much better analytics off the back of it because we're building an analytics portal to see the engagement across like hundreds of creators when we get to that size.
Mhm.
Um, so we're using it as a starting point, sort of almost like a sort of a development playground where we're getting to know exactly how this is going to just to work out. But whilst we're doing that, we're getting creators that aren't just BitTensor related, but they're crypto related creators. So we'll build up our creator network, and then we will expand into crypto as general, Web3 general.
Mhm.
I mean, and beyond that, we've already had a few people, like very, very big Web2 YouTubers, get in contact with us with like millions of subscribers asking to join the network.
Mhm.
That's not right for us right now, but that's extremely exciting because it just shows that the novel approach that we're taking, and by utilizing the power of BitTensor, we're not limited to just Web3.
Mhm.
We're going to be a company that can deliver value to any brand who wants to get his message out, or do a PR release, or whatever it is that they want to do. Our service will be able to deliver what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from a creator perspective, it's very efficient because, typically creators are used to trying to arrange brand deals, and that often has to go through a middleman or an agent or someone who's negotiating those deals on your behalf. And again, just so people know, and maybe you can describe this a little bit, Tom, better than I can, but when you are part of the Bitcast ecosystem and you're set up as a miner slash creator, you're getting paid out in the alpha token for Bitcast, but that's essentially getting deposited straight into your wallet on a daily, weekly basis. As long as you're putting out content that meets the requirements of the brief. So it's kind of cutting out that middleman and just making it super efficient for creators to tap into a revenue source from providing valuable information to the network. And then it also creates the ability for brands to very seamlessly access creators that are having a following directly related to their niche. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. Like there's so many benefits to this solution compared to what is available at the moment. Obviously, you touched on middlemen, which means that there's someone's taken a cut from what the creators receive. But there's also the scale. So when a brand releases a brief, like I said before, you can have up to 100 creators all creating videos in their own way. It's all being evaluated by AI. So there's so much less human interaction. There's no negotiations. Also, from a creator's point of view, you don't have the outreach to reach out to brands and say, like, can we work with you? That's all done for you on the system.
Hmm.
And also, I mean, from when I was creating on my Instagram channel, um, I would often spend quite a lot of time speaking to brands, and then the deal not actually um, becoming real, and it's just a lot of wasted time. So this solution allows creators to see briefs, pick the ones that they want, and then go and create. So they get more time to spend on creating brilliant content, more
Hmm.
time that they can invest into research and doing a better job, and then get paid fairly for it. So we think there's like I said before, there's pitfalls in the current system. It's a lot of DMs, spreadsheets, a lot of admin. We're trying to remove as much of that as possible so that we get the best content being created, which also means the best value for the brands.
Yeah. Amazing. So I know you technically did only launch about 2 weeks ago, but you've already got some exciting stuff on the roadmap. I was reading you guys are mentioning, refining incentive mechanisms. You're working on a no-code miner setup so that creators who are non-technical can easily uh, get set up with the network and start mining and creating content. What does that look like for the next few months slash the next year, I guess? Specific milestones that you guys are excited about. What's the biggest thing you're working on over the next few months?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head on one of those is the no miner, the no code miner, and we're really excited about that. Like that will remove the bottleneck so that we can get unlimited creators onboarded, minimal fuss. I mean, one of the barriers to entry at the moment is creators. They are saying, this is very technical. It's not really my skill set, so we're going to get rid of that completely.
Hmm.
Um, we are also working on analytics dashboards, so it brings in really valuable metrics from however many videos are being created about that content, which is going to be really powerful for brands.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think beyond that, we have a lot of ideas and ways that we want to fine tune the platform. So at the moment, it's a create a brief and everyone goes. We're going to be over the next few months playing around with different parameters that that brands can put in. Um, so such as like they might want to heavily incentivize US traffic, or they might want to heavily incentivize certain demographics of the audience, say like age or whatever. So we're going to be working on some features around that and just basically making our service a little bit more bespoke,
Hmm.
but still having that big surge of like decentralized content and the way that the rewards are delivered.
Yeah, awesome. So I know we touched on it briefly already with the ability for Bitcast to expand outside of fulfilling briefs specifically for the TAO ecosystem. What does that look like for you guys in 1, 2, 3 years from now? Like, what is the ideal scenario? What do you see Bitcast growing into? And how does that fit into the larger AI ecosystem?
Yeah, this is where I get really excited because the, there's a huge shift at the moment from PPC ads and traditional pay-per-click over towards more authentic storytelling, content creation. It's been going on for the last 5 or 6 years, however long. Um, and that shift is generating more and more momentum each year. Now, if you're looking at sort of the world in which we're moving into competing with, we're going to be competing or taking market share away from the big boys. So, we're talking about Google. Meta, um, where all the ad spend or a high proportion of it is. So yeah, so that's probably where we're going to be starting to compete within the AI landscape itself. A solution like this is the first of its kind, where the content is being evaluated by AI. So we see ourselves as the next generation of ad platform. And I don't see why not in the future that we're going to be a dominant ad service across the world.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat today. Any final parting words, or maybe for anyone who wants to learn more about Bitcast, I'll definitely leave a link in the description below this video. But anything you'd like to say to someone who's wanting to learn more or dive into the Bitcast ecosystem?
Yeah, by all means, like head to the website, which is bitcast.network, or message us on X if you want to chat. We're always around to give you as much support as possible. And yeah, just reach out if you are interested in getting involved, and we'll do everything we can to get you on board.
Yeah, for sure. I Guys, anyone watching this video, like Tom and his brother Will are working super hard. I've been connecting with them for the past few weeks. Two very legitimate, humble guys working super hard on this subnet. So I highly recommend if anyone's interested, definitely reach out to Tom and Will, and I'm sure they'll sort you out. So yeah, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description for Bitcast. You guys can check it out. If there's any questions for Tom and anything you'd like to know more about the Bitcast ecosystem, drop a comment below this video. And yeah, Tom, thank you very much once again. And maybe we can do a follow up in a few months and see where Bitcast is at.
Would absolutely love to. Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.